Okay, sorry. Yeah, it's recording now. So since I stopped, let's take a question from Zahir Haider. Zahir, you have a question? Zishan Haider, sorry.
Sorry, sir. I was also saying that, sir.
Recording? Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. Can you mute your mic now? Okay, thanks.
सर ये ऊपर वाला थोड़ा 1 सेकंड के लिए पार्ट दिखा दो.
Well, you will have all the chance to look at this when I post it. ये कह रहे हैं? Saira, you have a question?
Yes, sir. Can you please explain that why did you write parameter equal to 2? I didn't get this.
Yeah, so as I said that today's lecture, you won't get most of it. And I'm not defining anything. I'm just talking in very general terms. So if you don't get anything, that's fine. But let me just say that suppose you want to describe a curved surface. One way to think about it is that you pick a chart paper, and chart paper, any point you want to locate on it, you can do it by these grids. So that's your graph. And you want to describe where a particular point is, you can give these numbers, like let's say this is 0, 0. So you go 3 in x direction, 3 in y direction, you have 3, 3. Similarly, this point is, let's say, 5, 7 or something. Now, this chart paper is flat, but now you can crumble it. Suppose it's made up of some elastic material and deform it into this surface. So any point on this surface can be located. So you will have these kind of wiggly chart paper now, but it doesn't matter. Each line of this has a number associated with it. So like this point you can mark it by it's at the crossing of line 1 and line 3. So that's why I said that you can describe it. If you want to say that where is this vector, which way vector at this point is pointing. So it depends if it's on this point or if it's on this crossing. So you can identify which vector you are talking about by giving these two numbers. So 2 parameters.
Sir?
Yeah.
एक कंप्लेन है. आपकी राइटिंग नहीं समझ आ रही थोड़ी.
Okay, I'll try to write it more clearly.
Okay.
So that's the idea. It's nothing you should worry about because we will not be doing any curved surfaces in this course, anything like that. At least not parameterizing them. You will learn it in your next course, I guess. But that was just some idea. So let me come to this, that what kind of quantities is calculus? What kind of questions, I should say, concerned with? So main question which calculus deals with can be described in terms of motion. So you should think of it as a metaphor. Motion is a good metaphor to interpret the things we do in calculus. So as I said, you may be worried about variable 1 depending on variable 2, but you can think of variable 1 as the position of a particle and variable 2 as time. And then just think about a particle is moving in space with time. And then this becomes kind of a parable, a metaphor for describing what the calculus can do for you. So then the main thing which we deal with is how position changes with time. This is the thing, this is called the independent variable. And this depends on it. Now, my question is, what kind of questions you can ask? What kind of questions can calculus answer? So the main problem of calculus was probably stated by Zeno in the Antiquity in terms of a paradox. So Zeno's paradox of motion, which we are describing over here. So what was the paradox? So Zeno said that if I look at one particular instant, so let's say time 1, I have a moving arrow. So you have a moving arrow. Everyone knows that if you have a moving arrow, starts from here, it reaches the other side in some time t. So, but Zeno said that if I look at one particular instant, then the arrow at that instant is in a particular position. At each instant, say t1, the arrow is in one particular position. That's almost by definition. Because if the arrow is at two positions, if the arrow at one instant is here and here as well, then he said that then we are not talking about one instant, we are talking about two instances. Because at this instant, it was at t1, and this must be some close by instant, t2. So at one instant, the arrow is at one particular position. And that's what you see if you take a picture of arrow. When you take a picture, it's stationary. It's at one position. So he said if the arrow is in one particular position, this means arrow is stationary. At any given instant. Because at any given instant, it's at one position, so that means it's not moving. And that's why it's stationary. But if it's stationary at any given instant, then how does it move? So how does it move? Well, we know that when we talk about logic, it's something not, let's say, God-given. It's something we build in a way that is useful. And correct logic is which can help us analyze a situation or help with a problem. We definitely know that the arrow moves. So this kind of argument probably is lacking something. We don't need this kind of logic. We need something else. So the correct way to think about it is that the motion is described by just giving the position of arrow at each time. It's just a matter of fact that at t1, the arrow is at x1. At t2, let me draw it here. The arrow is here. At t3, the arrow is here, and so on. So for example, this could be some position 5.678, and this could be some position 5.892. This could be 1 second, this could be second number 2, and so on. So for each instant, you give the position. And since at later instances, the positions are different, then that means the arrow does travel from one point to the other. There's nothing else to be said about the arrow. So what you are essentially saying is that the resolution of the paradox is that position is a function in the sense I described above, is a function of time. It changes as time changes. And for flying arrows, this changes with time. And if this arrow is stationary, then you will get the same position for each time. That's also a valid function, but that means that the arrow is stationary. While if it's changing with time, position is changing with time, you just call it that it's flying, because at later time you find it at different positions. So we have solved the paradox in almost completely, but let's come back to Zeno's question. He claimed that it is stationary at a particular instant. So let's ask this: is it stationary? At a given time? This is pretty much a question of semantic, that what you mean by it. Perhaps Zeno wants us to give a speed of arrow at any given time. That's and if he wants us to give the speed, we have to define what does he mean by speed, or what sensible quantity we can call the speed. We have solved the paradox because we say that the motion is just described by giving the position at different times, and it just so happens at various times there's a different position for arrow. That's why it's a moving arrow, and there's nothing else to be said. But this mental confusion which Zeno created, we want to give it a better understanding of it. And we say that Zeno perhaps wants to know the speed of arrow. Well, you say that this is how I define the speed. I take one of this position, how much distance the arrow has covered, and how much time it took. We divide it by that, and that's our speed. Well, Zeno says that this is something about the overall motion. I want to know what is the speed at one particular instant. This instant. What you can do about that? So this thing people call average speed. Well, you can say what I can do is that this, since by the very definition of this object, I'm going to define an object which takes the difference of two time points and calculates the distance covered. And when I write this notation x of t2, that just means the position at time t2, and x of t1 is whatever position I get at time t1. This is how I define speed. There's nothing more I can do. So I can give them this notation, the change in position divided by change in time, and it's just an algebraic step. I take a difference and I divide two numbers. No calculus so far is involved. You say that this is the speed. Zeno says, well, this is between 2 points. You offer him that the best we can do, since we need this, is bring this point T2 very close to it. If T2 is very close to T1, we can say that this is the average speed between two very nearby instances, and just take it to be speed at T1. By the way, this is all colloquial, so don't think I'm those who know a bit more that I'm talking rubbish. It's not. I'm just trying to build some argument. So you say that compute this when T2 is very close to T1, and this is the symbol I use. T2 is almost approaching T1, which would be same as when this will happen, then the difference between these two nearby points will be going to 0, will be very, very small. And people use this symbol of limit. And call this speed at that instant, at instant T1. And since it's right around that T1 point, so let's even drop the nomenclature of average. Just call it at speed at that instant T1. However, there's a problem. Is this well defined? You define something, but is this well defined? And what do I mean by well defined? By well defined, I mean is that if I define it, you follow the procedure of this definition, you get the same answer as I do or as a third person. So is this well defined? Well, the first question which occurs is how small t has to be taken. How small delta t has to be taken. I didn't specify, I just said that it's very small. And does the answer depend? On which small value you take? So if I take 1 millisecond, you take 0.5 millisecond, and if the answers are different, then I should settle it down. Should I say 1 millisecond over here? But that's a very specific definition of a very specific average speed. It's not something inherent to this definition. I just said the delta t has to be very small. So how small? And does the answer depend on how small value you take? Well, perhaps you can say, make it exactly equal to 0. By the way, when I say 0, so why not delta t exactly 0? This thing is just not possible. Well, why not? First of all, when you take delta t equals to 0, you are kind of going back to the Zeno's original paradox. There's just no way to compute speed. Speed is how much distance you covered. And that's what Zeno's confusion was, that at that instant it's not covering the distance. So what's the speed? I offered the resolution that computed for nearby times and then use the average speed formula and call that speed at that instant. So you bring it exactly 0. The difference between those two nearby points exactly 0. You're back to the Zeno's paradox, but more importantly, this is mathematically, it's nonsense. It doesn't give you an answer. If you do that, you don't get an answer. Why? Because then you are dividing by 0. If you put this 0, you are dividing by 0. And this is just a reminder, division by 0 is nonsense.
Sir,
Wait. Nonsense. What do I mean by nonsense? But nonsense means cannot be given an answer. So if you divide something by 0, there's no answer for it. It doesn't mean anything. So if I have a over 0, everyone knows this. If I say that this is equal to b, this division by definition means that this b is that number, which when multiplied by 0 gives me an a. And if a is not 0, no such b exists. Because there's no number which you multiply by 0 and get a non-zero number. You always get a 0. On the other hand, you can say, well, when I made this 0, delta x also became 0. Since I was talking about very nearby times, so the distance which was covered was also very small. And when I made the time difference become 0, the spatial difference also becomes 0. But then all you are doing is 0 over 0. This is no answer either. Because if I put it equal to b, this means 0 is equal to b times 0. And any b will do the job. So you have no answer. I'd say 3, you say 25, they're all same. So you cannot make it exactly 0, but you have to make it small. Then you're back to square one, how small? So delta x must be small because we want to define the speed right at one instant, or at least around one instant, must be small, but not 0. Well, delta t, sorry. Then the question is, how small? And does the answer depend on how small we take? Depend on how small is delta t. This issue that we should get an answer which should not depend on how small we are taking delta t, and how to decide that we have reached that small delta t, but because obviously for some larger delta t, we won't get that answer. How do we decide that we have reached that delta t? Not making it exactly 0, but still guessing, still getting to an answer which will be 2 for very, very small delta t, and which does not depend on how do you approach, how do you make this small. This is related to the concept of limit. So the issue is related to the issue of the concept of limit of a function as over here, for example, t2 goes to t1, or delta t goes to 0, or when it becomes very, very small. or a function in general, what value it takes as x approaches a particular value, let's say a. So what essentially you do in this limit, we will study it. This is all colloquial. We will study it in detail and with precise definitions from tomorrow. What you do over here, let's think in terms of what we have been doing. So I take a small n of delta t. I find that the arrow has covered a particular delta x. I make this ratio. I get an average speed. And if this is small enough, I start by claiming that this number, which I received, is the limit. This is my guess. And perhaps it's something between this. There's a margin of error around it because I don't know, because I used a delta t. So I don't know what exactly I should have been choosing. So I'm leaving a margin of error. If I make delta t smaller and the margin becomes even smaller, I make delta t more small, the margin becomes smaller. I never take delta t to be equal to 0, but as I make delta t smaller and smaller, I'm converging over my initial guess. So you have an initial guess, which does not change as you make delta t small, no matter how much. Then you will say that you have defined something which is reasonable, which everyone will agree upon. So by this process, if this process can be done, if this limit, we say that if this limit exists or this limit can be taken, then you have defined a speed at a point. And as I said, that this is just a metaphor for any two quantities depending on each other. The speed is what we call in calculus the derivative. And this is one of the main quantities which you are interested in, which you want to be able to compute, able to define. So this derivative is the central object of study, as it tells us a lot about the relationship between two variables at every instant. So it literally says rate of change. So what is speed? It's rate of change of the distance per unit time. So since it is the rate of change, derivative is rate of change of quantity 2 per unit change in quantity 1. So it literally defines how the quantity 2 changes due to changes in quantity 1 at each value of quantity 1, because you were able to define it at each instant of time. So if I draw a graph, I have, let's say, one quantity which I'm calling x, another one which is y, and y changes with x. So the rate of change, how it's increasing, or it may even be then decreasing, or maybe it doesn't change later on. At each value of x, how does it change? That's encapsulated by derivative. Not everything about it, but a very central thing about it, that how does it change? So notice that if you are just at one point, then you just know about the value for the function. You don't know how it's changing, because to know how it's changing, you need to know what's happening at other points. But this derivative gives you a process of defining a rate of change at each point, which becomes very useful. So let me take some questions. Baba, you have a question.
Sir, can we have only two quantities, or we can take more than two quantities?
Yeah, as I gave an example, you can have one quantity depending on many other quantities. Literally 3, 4 thousands of them. You encounter them in problems. And Shahzeb, what's your question?
Sir, is it possible to have multiple rate of changes of a quantity for one rate of change of one quantity?
No, that would be something undefined. That would will not make any sense. If that happens, that means your derivative or your rate of change is ill-defined. You have failed. You have failed, or the change which you were describing is not good enough to assign a rate of change to it. We will see some situations like that.
Thank you, sir.
But let me again to the question to which Baba asked. It usually depends on many quantities, but we will not deal with those situations. We will keep things simple and only consider those situations where the quantity depends only on one thing. For example, motion. It only depends on time. If you give the position at each time, you have defined it. And we will keep things simple in this course. There's a question by Shayan.
Assalamualaikum, sir.
Welcome,
Sir, so if a function is continuous, then it has to be differentiable. We can always calculate the rate of
So
change.
by the way, when I said continuous quantities, I did not mean in a technical way. All I meant was that the values you can give to it come from the set of real numbers. I haven't defined anything carefully right now. So whatever I say, take it just at a conceptual level with a pinch of salt. Nothing which I say today, I should not be held against it, because I'm not defining things mathematically. So when I said continuous, all I meant was that these quantities take values from real numbers. So like if you're talking about position, it can be any number. It doesn't go from 1 foot to 2 feet to 3 feet to 4 feet. It doesn't take jumps. It's like a continuous change. But not necessarily we are talking about continuous functions. I'll probably get to that example today, or maybe not. I'm already running out of time. But even before I define continuity, I'll give some hand-waving definition of this as well. But I didn't meant it in that way. Lots of questions. Shahid.
Yes, sir. I just actually wanted to know that the theory part that you've written here, will we be tested on this in our exams, in our RDs, or will we be tested on actual mathematical problems?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you can be tested on anything. All you can do is increase your understanding of what we do in class and
So we will be
practice
asked
with.
to-
Well, I don't know how to define
certain
it. Well,
questions.
the thing is, in university, you don't really prepare for exams. That's not the point of it. And believe me, like if you get an A in this course, that's totally nice. I'm not saying you shouldn't strive for it, but like 5 years after you graduate, you wouldn't even remember. No one will ask you. So I don't know how to. I mean, my main point is that you don't prepare for exams. You try to just understand, because so you listen to lectures, try to absorb, and ask if you don't understand anything. I'll give you a lot of problems to test your understanding on. And when you do that, you will get practice. And hopefully whatever is asked of you in exam, you will be able to do it. If you make a few mistakes, doesn't matter. You still will get it.
Yes, I understand that. I just wanted to know if we will be asked to write definitions in exam.
Well, you don't have to memorize things. That's not the point of it, but you will have to understand the definition. So mostly the exam would be application of it. I don't usually ask definitions.
Sir, what you explained.
Wait. Let's go one by one. So let's go with Nidal. Nidal, are you gonna speak? Okay. Wait. So I think Nidal has some problem. Raiha.
Assalamualaikum, sir. I just wanted to ask if the RLEs will be standardized or you will be making our
Standard? No, I'll be making it. No, they won't be made by anyone else. I'll make it, I'll grade it, I'll decide if all of you get 30, and if I decide that it was too hard and you did really a good job, you tried very hard, I can still give you an A. So don't worry about that.
All right. Thank you so much.
Faris Ijaz.
Sir, will you provide notes, chapter notes?
I don't know. I mean,
Sir, please.
I'll think about it, but you should take notes in class, I would say. But
excuse me, sir.
Ji.
Sir, would you recommend using the 10th edition or like some particular edition of the book?
No, it doesn't matter.
described?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Get the latest one. Usually they're better.
Sir?
Ji. So it's now free
The
for
homework-
just jump in, whoever wants to speak.
The homework you're gonna give, how much time will we have for it? Like every week?
Every
How many
week.
days?
So you will have a week. Anyone else has a question?
So the homework will be based on what we do in the class, right?
Yeah. And also what I'll provide, well, yeah, essentially.
सर
जी
सर ये आप रिकॉर्डिंग कहाँ अपलोड करेंगे?
ये मैं YouTube पे करता होता हूँ तो but since this time we are gonna be physical, so I would say most of the lectures will not be recorded, so it's just the first two, so it's not much of
Sir, next week से मतलब physical classes हैं?
यही hope तो यही है. Anyone else?
तो थोड़ा सा scroll up कर लो.
YouTube का चैनल का नाम क्या है?
By the way, ये आपको you don't need to worry about today's lecture. It was just well, I didn't get to even half of it. I don't know. I mean, we spent a lot of time in question and answers. But what I did today, and probably what I'll do next time, is mainly about the ideas. We will define them much more carefully as we start it formally. Okay. So any other question?
Yes, sir. Isn't there any TA for your slot, sir?
A what?
TA, sir.
TA.
Yes, sir.
So these two women, Samreen and Kurtulan, they are the TAs or whatever you want to call them. So all three of us are part of the team. But yeah, if you bug them, Samreen and Kurtulan, they will help you a lot. They are the TAs is their job, and they are also very much interested in helping students. So they will help you a lot.
Sir, I wanted to ask that if in-person classes start, the
Hmm.
homework, do you want us to submit it physically, or do you want us to scan it and upload it on the LMS?
I think either would be fine, I would say. So I think we have kind of reached the end of it, and I didn't want to do anything formal today, and because I'm really waiting for the physical classes as well, and I just want to give you a flavor of what will be coming. So if there are no more questions, we
Sir,
can.
the book you told us about, you will share it on LMS, right?
Yeah.
Sir, can you provide the links for the books?
I said I'll upload the book.
Okay.
So any other question?
Sir, what's the name of the channel? What's the name of the
Oh,
YouTube channel you're going to upload?
It's my name. I'll send the link. It's my just personal channel. I have some videos on it. I'll send the link. Any other question? So is Samin here? She's not here. Anyway, so if there are no more questions, let's stop here. Let me see if there's something in the chat. Channel का नाम जो है, I mean, it's my just personal channel. I don't know if you search for Babar Qureshi, will you find it or not? But I'll send a link of it in very shortly. Okay, so
Allah Hafiz, sir.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz, sir.
Allah Hafiz.